Righto, we are here live at Community Sports Show Central, and it's my pleasure to be joined tonight by the man in blue. I'm a little worried he's got his Eagles jumper on. I'm going to have to sterilise the house later, but that's okay. I'm joined by Dan, but more excitedly, we're joined live from Melbourne by the man, the myth, the legend that is Grant Hansen. Welcome to the show, Grant.
Yeah, good evening, fellas, and great to be on your show. I've been really looking forward to it and speaking to all the Perth mob over there. And you may not know this, guys, but my grandfather was actually born in Perth on my mother's side in a little town called Wagen. So his surname was Williams. I never met him, but that's where he was born. So I have a slight WA connection. So good to be here.
Well, you mentioned the WA connections. There are plenty of Hansons and plenty of Williams that follow us. So a big shout out to all the families, wherever you are and on whatever country you're watching from tonight. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, g'day guys. Grant, mate, we obviously know you from Marngrook Footy Show, 12 years as host. Take us back, mate. Tell us how it all began.
Well, like you guys, my background was in community radio at 3CR in Melbourne, and there was a lot of Indigenous programs there in the 80s, and I was one of those young kids that was doing the Koori Music Show. And one Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning rather, I was sitting at home watching Channel 7 footy panel show, then a Channel 9 panel show. Then it dawned on me that why is there no Indigenous people in the AFL panels? And then that's how I roughly come up with the concept of the Marngrook Footy Show. Was I'm going to do my own AFL Footy Show, and it's going to have Indigenous people on there talking about the game. And I knew I wanted to go to TV, but to get to TV, I started on community radio at 3CR in Melbourne, and then went across to 3KD, which is the Indigenous radio station here in Melbourne. But 3CR is where I got my grounding and where everything started from. So I'm really supportive of community radio and also community television.
Now, for all the viewers out there, we are a sports of all sorts type of show, and we've been covering football enough for the last few weeks, what with all the talk about returns and hubs and stuff like that. But for all our viewers out there who might not know who you are, would you like to start by introducing yourself and letting them know who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, sure. As you know, I'm Grant Hansen, but my Aboriginal family, my grandmother, my great-grandfather, they're from a nation called Tongarang, which is in the central part of Victoria, and we're Franklins, basically. So that's what I identify with, and I'm also the chairperson of the Tongarang Lands and Waters Council as well, so I'm proud about that as well. But the Franklin family is a very big family, and my great-grandfather was a Hamilton, so that makes me related to basically half of the state. And as you pointed out before, my surname Hansen, well, there's a lot of Noongars that have the same surname and the same spelling with an EN. No O, not related to Pauline in any way, but certainly an EN. And my grandfather was a sailor, and apparently there's a bit of a connection with the Hansens over there and a sailor. So who knows, it may be the same man. But I'm certainly friends with a lot of the Hansens on Facebook, and they're claiming me, so I'm happy to be claimed by them as well. But yeah, I'm a proud Victorian Koori person, and well, basically, here I am.
Yeah, well, we always known that you're a Western Bulldogs supporter, and we see the scarf over your right shoulder. Take us back. Where did that happen? Like, how did you get involved with the Western Bulldogs?
Well, funny enough, you know what it's like being a young kid born into a mad football family. My dad was born in the western suburbs, born in Footscray, and mad Bulldog. So basically, I had not much choice in it. Although there is a few photos of me floating around as a young kid with a Collingwood jumper on, and people thought I might have barracked for Collingwood at some stage, but I actually idolised Peter McKenna. So I had a Collingwood jumper of number 6, and most kids at my primary school had a Collingwood jumper number 6 because he was as big as the Beatles in those days. But you still had your team that you barracked for. And mine was the Bulldogs. So I was basically born into a family of Bulldog supporters, and so it's a bit like religion. You're born into it, so that's the team that you follow.
A bit like me, Grant. My mum and my two sisters are both Collingwood. I had to flee interstate to escape the Collingwood curse.
Well, funny enough, my mother was a Collingwood supporter, and Dad converted her over to the Bulldogs. I don't think he would have married her otherwise. That's how staunch he is. And so Mum got converted to the Bulldogs. And I remember as a little kid thinking, geez, I don't think the Bulldogs are ever going to win a grand final. I should have bloody barracked for Collingwood. Came to my senses, guys.
Well, you got one in the bag now, so enjoy that, because it might be a few years before you get another one.
Exactly. But you know what? I can go into that coffin with a smile on my face, knowing that I've seen the Doggies win that flag. And that was one of my biggest fears, and probably one of my life regrets, that I was going to pass on without seeing the Doggies win a flag. So I've seen it. So anything can happen now. I don't care. I've seen what I wanted to see.
Well, funny part was I was actually at the Marngrook Footy Show, the grand final edition, before that game. Yeah. So that was my first taste of live footy show action with you guys. Yeah. Mate, I obviously loved watching you guys on the show because you talked about footy. Yeah. I didn't need to know, watching the Channel 9 shows and all that kind of stuff, about all the silly stuff that goes on. What was your formula with your show? You know, how did you guys, you know, with all your hosting that, work out the best way of doing that footy show?
Well, I sort of think it evolved. I mean, when we first started the show off, we had a couple of rehearsals, and Gilly struggled basically as a panellist, and there was a bit of talk about Gilly at the time, you know, not even coming on the show at all. And I just had the insight to say, I think Gilly should be my right-hand man, and just let Gilly be Gilly and be funny, and, you know, add a bit of spice to the show. And sort of after the first few shows, then we realised that we all can't agree with each other, because that'd get a bit boring. So we developed that bit of argy-bargy with each other as well, just to get a bit of a laugh. And also the live audience became part of the show as well, and it became sort of a bit like the Marngrook experience. But a lot of that stuff sort of evolved. But I was always mindful of what our audience was. It was pretty much grassroots people that followed footy. And I was aware of our audience because of doing the radio show for 12 years. So it's our 13th year in television, and before that, 12 years on radio. So I've been doing Marngrook for 25 years. So I'm quite aware of who our audience really is and what genres and what they like. So it was some of the radio stuff that I brought over into television, with that knowledge of knowing what people like and what they like to talk about. But as you say, not many footy shows really talk about footy. They talk about everything else, about themselves and everything outside of footy. But, you know, on a Thursday night, you know, people want to know who's in, who's out, who's going to win and why. So basically that was just our recipe, and that became our staple diet, our recipe for success, basically.
And across all those years, you've had countless AFL legendary names on there as well, sharing their insights and getting their knowledge, both current day players in there. Must be good to get that balance as well.
You know, well, the great thing about Marngrook, it's always had such a good feeling, you know. To be a part of the audience is really the Marngrook experience, because, as you would remember, sitting in the audience, we talked to the audience during the breaks, we stand around with people after the show's finished, we sign autographs, we get photos taken. So we're always pretty accessible to our audience, and I thought that always put us in good stead. But what was your question? I forgot now.
Well, finally, someone who talks as much as I do and forgets what they were talking about. I love it.
It was a good question, but I got sidetracked. Sorry, what was the question?
No, it was really just about that difference in some of the panel members.
Yeah, but sorry, you said that we had on the show, and as I was going to mention, that we've never had any difficulty getting anybody onto the show. Actually, people are lining up every year to come onto the show. When I go into the rooms after the game, or I'm out and about, ex-players or current players will say, "Hey, Grant, when are you going to get me on the show? I love Marngrook, I want to come on." And so it's basically, you know, it's been fairly easy for us to get, you know, people onto the show. But there's been some great guests over the year. You know, one that comes to mind is Danaher. Neil Danaher is a champion man. He's on the show at least probably 4 or 5 times over the years. And before he started up his foundation, he was on our show. The great late Jim Steins, he was an awesome man. Barry Cable, Sid Jackson, Nicky Winmar, you know, you name it, we've had it. We've even had the CEO, Gillon McLaughlin, and Andrew Demetrio in his time on our show. So, you know, it's always good to have a mix of the old players and the new players, because people just love to reminisce about the old days, which most Australians love to do that, don't they? You know, the old days always seem to be better, you know, but people just love to see the old players and see what they're up to. And whether they're skinny or they've lost their hair or they're divorced or, whatever's going on in their lives. People just love that as well. So I think that nostalgic part of Marngrook has endeared us to a lot of people as well.
So as you mentioned Neil Danaher, and obviously you see I'm wearing the MMD beanie for multiple neuron disease. Unfortunately, I ordered the ones online and I'm still waiting for delivery, so I have to wear last year's. But shout out to a mate of ours, Ben Riley, who's a teacher at my school, who has fortunately been diagnosed with it. So, mate, as much as we can do for you with donation and that, and anyone out there, go to Coles, go to Bunnings, buy your beanies, guys, because hopefully one day we can find a cure for this. So, as you know, you've interviewed Neil Danaher and stuff like that. I've spoken to him at the Eagles when he was assistant coach. Really nice bloke, and he's just getting stronger and stronger mentally. Some of the interviews he's had recently, okay, maybe he's not been able to talk as properly, but you know what? His brain's never given up.
Well, he's lasted 6 years, I think it is, and apparently when you have that condition, you're lucky to last a couple of years. But it just shows the fight inside the man, and his will to spread the message. And great thing Foundation's been able to do over that time, and it's become a significant event on the AFL calendar. And all credit to him and his family and friends around him that have made that charity, such a great organisation, such a great thing to get behind. And you say you're wearing the hat, I'll see him on for sale down at the local Coles store, as well. So the message has really got out there, and the awareness about the disease is out there as well. So you mentioned your mate as well. We wish him all the best, but it's good. It's a lot of awareness out there now. But as you mentioned, Neil Danaher, champion on the field and off the field. Yeah.
And taking that point on, with the delay of the AFL, and we're looking a few weeks out now, there are some. There's Grant's MND. I've got to get mine. Mine's coming.
Yep, this is this year's one. Yeah, my brother just gave it to me. So yeah, he got that from Coles down the road.
Nice.
So that's a tip for all you viewers out there. If you want to support MND, and we encourage you to get behind it, get down to your local Coles. I think they're only about $20.
$20, yeah.
So, the cost of a couple of bags of coffee or whatever it is goes to a good cause. Now, picking up that commentary around the mental element of it, with the close down at the moment, and we can see we've got a question here from Peter Farmer, who's actually in Geelong. He's a Noongar man living over in Geelong at the moment, not enjoying the cold at all, but he's getting used to it. Peter's actually brought up a question about Tom Boyd at the Western Bulldogs and talking openly around his mental health. What are your thoughts on how we're moving as a society that men can talk openly about mental health and the openness of that issue out there in modern day sport?
Yeah, well, it seems to be affecting a lot of people, a lot of young men that are playing elite sports, whether it's soccer players, NRL players, AFL players. And as you mentioned, society's a lot different than when I was growing up. There's a lot more social drugs out there, if you'd like to say, particularly with ice. That's pretty evident in today's society. A lot of young people have tried it, experimented with it, or on it, and that's part of the reason why people are probably getting mental problems as well. There's marijuana, which is now made out of chemicals and hydroponics, and so the drugs are very dangerous and they do a lot of damage mentally, and plus just the pressure of being an elite sportsman in itself without any drugs is also a big burden to carry. And I think Tom Boyd falls into that category where he was thrust into the spotlight, being I think he was the number one draft pick, and the expectations on him to be a superstar from game one would be weigh on him pretty heavily. And then, he came across the Western Bulldogs, and I think Peter Gordon, the Western Bulldogs president, put his hand in his pocket and paid him $1 million to come over to the Bulldogs. He was getting $1 million a year. And people kept talking about that rather than his footy prowess. And I think that weighed heavily on him as well. But I think at the end of the day, with Tommy had the last laugh. He was a young man. He made a shitload of money in a very short time. He played in the final series, and he played great in every game. He was probably nearly best on the ground besides him and Pickett and Joe Anderson. I think they're probably the three players that were best on the ground. He turned the game. He kicked one of the all-time great goals of grand finals, and he bowed out when he wanted to bow out. So I think he had the last laugh in terms of that, as far as the pressure from the media and people on the outside looking in and talking about his contract and, you know, whether he was a good football or a bad football. So I think I take my hat off to Tom that he actually got out when he wanted to get out and he made his own call. Some other players probably hang around a bit longer than what they probably should, but, you know, getting back to the mental health problem, it does weigh very heavily on a lot of young people in society these days, not just, you know, probably sports people, but everybody. It's a very difficult world out there, and as you can see now, just being locked up basically for 7 or 8 weeks, you know, I even started to go a bit stir crazy at home, wanting to get out. So it's very difficult times for us at the moment, and you know, I'm just hopeful that everyone can sort of pull through and live much better lives.
Well, I can just see Peter Farmer does agree that Boyd was amongst the best players through that series. So one of the things, and it's not unique to football, but we have learnt to manage it better. I've been involved, the yellow shirt up the back there is the Kickstart program. I've seen a lot of young men go through that program and suddenly end up, as you say, under the spotlight in the AFL and every sport. How do you think that's making a difference for them and their families, the support they receive these days?
Well, look, I think education programs is always the key. I mean, when I was a young kid, you always knew about drugs like heroin, how bad they were. And if you had it once, you'd probably have it 10 times and you'd probably end up having habit and probably dying from it, you know, and so is speed and everything else. But these days, there's a lot more drugs that are out there, and there's a lot more peer pressure on young kids to get into drugs. And, you know, some kids are not fortunate enough to be working, unemployment. There's from single homes and they're from remote communities. A lot of problems, a lot of obstacles out there that, you know, make it very difficult for young kids to see a future. And sometimes, you know, through that they turn to drugs, which is pretty sad in itself. But, you know, we've got a problem with alcohol in this country. You know, all walks of life here in this country, alcohol is just as bad as all those other drugs I've just mentioned, and you can buy it legally in shops, you know. So I think there's still a lot of education work to do, and you know, young people just need to keep getting that message that drugs is not good to be taking, and it can really, you know, make a real sort of bad difference to you and your family and the people that love you. And, you know, it's not fun watching people fall into a world of drugs and get hooked on stuff and end up going to rehab or into jail. So we've got to keep those education programs happening right from grade 1 right up until, you know, year 12 at secondary college.
I absolutely agree with you. Going back to mental health and football, do you believe then that the AFL, in the AFL system, that the kids are drafted too young?
Look, that's a good question, because it came up just a couple of weeks ago, didn't it? And, you know, when I was a kid, there was under-19s at the Bulldogs, and I had a run down there and played a few games at the under-19s, and, you know, then there was the reserves, and then there was the seniors. So that was the pathway. But now, you know, the kids are coming out of the under-18s and straight into the big time, and it's quite a big step. It's a lot more. You have to be a lot more fitter and a lot more professional than when I was a young man. So I think there's a lot of pressure on kids. But I think the draft age should be up a bit more. I'd like to see it probably an under-20 competition, and then guys drafted, you know, 18, probably at 19. Only because they get to, you know, get their license and live a little bit. I think kids don't get to live a normal life once they get into the AFL bubble, and then they find it very difficult to adjust once their AFL careers are finished.
So we've got a comment. Taj Bailey gives you a shout out and acknowledges that you're a legend, but Taj is a young man. Not only are you involved in West Coast there and you've been a supporter for a long time, but our researcher also told us that you had a little bit of a pre-season with Essendon. Not quite to be a Bomber?
Yeah, well, funnily enough,
Oh, and it looks like we've lost Grant there. We'll work on getting him back in a moment. So far, though, Dan, he's getting lots of comments, and It's great to see. So if any viewers out there have a question for Grant, let's hope he rejoins us in a moment. It's obviously cold across the Nullarbor there tonight. Last week for Warwick, we blamed.
I think we got back.
Yeah, he's back. Let's bring him back in. There he is. Welcome back.
No,
or not.
That was a short one.
He'll figure it. I've got a smile. We had a test run earlier today and it was all working fine. So last week we blamed Pyongyang.
Pyongyang, yep, and good old North Korea.
This week it must be the Victorians hating on us over here in the West because we're not letting them come over here. Or
that's probably the hub idea. Yeah,
the whole hub idea.
Stuck in the hub.
Stuck in a hub now.
And g'day, Zach, by the way. We see your comment.
Yes, up there. Indeed we do. All right,
And
now
here we go again.
let's see. He's just joining us. We'll get our receptionist in there, Wayne Ryder, joining us. And let's see, Grant, you there? We can see you. Welcome. You there? Got to smile when this stuff happens. Grant Hansen, can you hear us? Got to. Oh, dear. I'm blaming. Oh, I shouldn't say this, but he does have an iPhone.
Yeah, it could be that too. I'm Samsung.
Could be that. Third time's a charm.
There we go. Knocking wood.
All right, we'll see if he's back. Grant, can you hear us? Talisha got a smile on her face. 3, 2, 1. There he is. Grant, can you hear us? We'll do sign language. I can't do sign language.
I know a little bit, but not that much.
I suspect we're going to lose him again. Technology. Yes, you got to love it.
And hello to my wife, Talisha.
Hello, Talisha. Happy birthday for the other day. So, look, opportunity there. Wayne Ryder, we can see you joining us. Big shout out to all the Kungamaya fans up there. Grant will go for a fourth time. Fourth time's a charm. No, it's not.
Must be cut off at the border.
Well, it's definitely. I knew the border restrictions were tight, but I thought at least technology would get through.
Yeah, I think that should have at least got through, isn't it?
It was working this afternoon, but that's not the problem. We'll keep bantering for a moment. So, Dan, all the viewers out there, you're welcome, Talisha, as she acknowledges the birthday greetings. Let's see, Grant, are you there? We had less problems going to South Korea than across to Victoria.
Absolutely.
I'm not blaming the Victorian Premier because I am Victorian by birth, West Australian by choice.
We got a message from Grant.
I suspect we probably have.
Yeah.
So you check that while I banter with the fans out here for a moment. So viewers, if you've got a question for Grant, not only is he into his football, we had a special finish wrapped up, so I'm desperate to get him back on.
Same.
If you've got a question for Grant, not only is he into football, but he's been involved in music. A lot of big names in his music connection there. That one might be ready. It says ready to join this time. Let's see what happens. Now, we're just counting down. 3, 2, 1. Grant Hansen, are you there? We can hear you, Grant.
Can you hear us, Grant?
Grant Hansen, can you hear us? Oh, I've got a smile. When you volume not my brother. Oh, here we go. Hang on. We can hear you.
You can hear me? I can't see or hear you. I can't hear or see you guys.
Well, let's try audio only. Can you hear us now? Oh, we're back. We can definitely hear you while you're on screen. Dear. Now, this is an excellent point, viewers. This is the joy of community broadcasting.
Yeah, no $1 million contract here.
No $1 million contracts here. If you are a tech person and want to join our team and make that issue go away, we'd love to hear from you. As we get our producer, that's me, so I'll have to get the assistant producer onto getting him back. Sure, worst case scenario, we can always do this.
No, we're back on streaming.
Well, we'll find out. Grant, yes, we are here.
Yeah. Can you hear us now?
I'm doing a quick tech change here.
So, guys, still messaging each other.
All right, let's try that. When in doubt, go old school.
Stop that again. I told you to try and reopen again.
Oh, damn. We sat side by side here tonight. We're allowed to. There is more than 8 meters square in this room.
Yep.
Most of it occupied by paraphernalia, but there is more.
And I've had the test. I'm negative.
I've been locked up, so I'm presuming I'm negative. We'll get him back because we're going to try a different audio technique. And, right, Grant, can you hear us? We can definitely see you. Legend Nosey, Community Sports Show. Appreciate Grant's appearance. We'd love to have his voice as well. Grant, can you hear us?
No.
Let him know we can hear him. Just message him, tell him we can hear him. He keeps hanging up on us. I'm feeling like a teen boyfriend of a young girl who doesn't know what he wants.
Maybe I can type questions to him or something?
Well, we'll work around it. Yeah, actually do that. How quick's your finger? Hang on. How quick's your finger, buddy?
Yeah, pretty quick.
That's what Talisha says. Who said that? All right, we'll close that because that shouldn't be impacting, but we'll see what happens. Now, Peter Farmer, we've had a couple of shout outs from you as well. Wayne Ryder out there, you got a question for Grant if and when we get him back?
Here we go, trying again.
15th time's the charm.
Oh, yeah, we definitely can hear you.
All right, how's that? Is that better? Let him know we can hear him.
Yeah, no, I've told him that.
All right. We can't go to a commercial, viewers. There is no commercials here.
I just don't want to type to him.
Ah, dear. Get him up. Get him on.
Yeah.
So, how much are you paying me to disinfect the house after wearing that shirt in here?
Absolutely none, man. I've just brought some class to the house.
I don't know. There's enough class in this room already. Now, viewers, next Saturday, make sure you tune in. We've still got the quiz going. Week 3 is ready to go. And next week, we're going to have to practice. See, this is why it makes me smile, because we have literally got Grant on. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
It says you're currently waiting to go live.
That's a myth. You just stay there.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. And I've got my secretary out. He's got his fast finger out. That sounds very rude, but it's appropriate. All right, so ask Grant about life beyond football and his favourite music act. What's his favourite type of music? So the question's coming.
I'm actually pretty heavily involved in the Aboriginal community here in Victoria and have been for many, many years. And I'm currently the chairperson of 3K&D. I've been there with those guys for 25 years now. So I've always been on that board there, and I'm also the chairperson of the Tongarong Lands and Waters Council, my tribe from Central Victoria. Also play a bit of music, and that basically keeps me busy, and of course the Marngrook football show. So so all those things keep me very, very busy. Music-wise, look, my music taste is quite varied. I love Yothu Indie, I love Paul Kelly, I love Crowded House, I love scrap metal, one of my all-time favourite Indigenous acts, Blacktail Music, Archie Roach. There's so many good acts out there, so many great music legends, Dragon, Cold Chisel, Skyhawks. There's so many great musicians out there and artists. And, I've grew up in the 70s, so I love 70s music.
I think that's all. I wish you could hear me because I'm a 70s child.
The Chinese TV show that I appeared in was quite a few years ago now, or maybe at least 10 years ago, but it was a very popular series in China, and I was one of the bad guys in the series, and I actually kidnapped one of the Chinese girls who was a young student that was living here in Australia. But it was quite fun doing that, and funnily enough, quite a few Chinese people in Australia recognised me when I was in some of the shopping centres from the show, so it must have been a big hit, not only in China, but over here in Australia as well.
All right, so quick, type away. I've got him asking another question. So, what are you going to ask? I feel out of control now.
Favourite guest.
My two favourite guests, or my favourite guests on Marngrook, well, there's been so many over the years. Of course, I've loved Uncle Sid Jackson because he's a legend of the game, one of the pioneers. The Mighty Cracker Brothers, it was great having them two on there. Also, as I said, Jim Stein's the great man. It was great having him on. Of course, Neil Danaher, Nicky Winmar. There's been so many, Lally Bowman. There's been so many great players, David Rees-Jones. I mean, we've had hundreds of guests on over the years. So it's, of course, Luke Beveridge, the Mighty Bulldog Premiership coach. There's been so many, and they've all been such great guys to interview and have fun with. And so it's very difficult to say my favourite. It's like trying to say who's your favourite kid, but there's been some great ones over here. All the big names, and some lesser names have been great stories too. So I find it really difficult to pick my top three.
Next question coming through.
So basically tell us about Layla and Shelley.
The women on the show, well, that was my idea, and people thought I was nuts when I first asked the fellow producers that I wanted to have women on the show, because women represented 50% of AFL membership. So I knew the importance of having women on our show. So I made it a real sort of thing with myself that I was going to have women. Layla's been on the show since day one. Layla's into her 13th year with me. So we're the only original ones that are left, but we've had other women like Emily Feen, Kylie Farmer, who's a Noongar girl from over there, Noongar woman, I should say, from over there as well. Also, Sandy Greenwood's been one, and Shelley. So we've had a lot of women over the year, and just more recently, we've had people like Abby Holmes, Natasha Baumert, young Koori girl from here. We've also had, who else? Caitlin Ashmore as well. So we've had a lot of current women on the show as well. So we'll continue to keep promoting women, because there's obviously the AFLW competition as well. And that's got really popular in a very short time. So Marngrook will continue to fly the flag with women in football.
I'm not sure what my secretary's typing up next.
Funniest moment in a footy game. I went with some mates to the Western Oval. It was a nice sunshiny day, and I was standing on the wing on the grandstand side of the ground in front of the Whitten stand and the John Gent stand, as it was known. So in between them, about 3 or 4 deep from the fence, and we're playing North Melbourne, the Bulldogs, and Mick Martin was on the field. One of my mates went a bit quiet. Now sometimes during a game you get a bit of a lull and it goes quiet all of a sudden. Then my mate yelled out at the top of his voice, "Hey, Mick, get off the field, you're scaring the kids." And everyone laughed. Everyone bursted out laughing. And funnily enough, Mick recited that exact incident on the Marngrook Footy Show, and I told him I was with the guy that actually yelled it out. So a bit like you, mate, sit behind the goals. I got a bit of notoriety. indirectly from a very funny moment in Mick Martin's football career. But yeah, that was absolutely it was a pisser actually. VFL grounds. I didn't like a lot of them in my day, but the one I hated the most was Windy Hill. Now, when you're a young kid, you had to catch a train into the city, then another train out to Essendon. And if you didn't get there before 12 o'clock, it was actually hard to get a spot to have a look at because they had a lot of members and it only fitted in about 30,000. So you'd have to get there around about 12 o'clock for a 2 p.m. start to actually get a spot where you could see. But I hated Essendon and I hated their colours and their red shorts, and they were a tough club and they were bullies, and they were the team I loved to hate the most was the Mighty Bombers.
So this one from Dan.
AFL Lex, I thought that was an experiment and it was a silly game, and I didn't think it had much legs at all, and I think I'm pretty happy that it's dead and buried, actually. I wouldn't like to see it come back.
We'd have to agree with you on that one, definitely. So the next question's coming through now. Overcoming technology here live and exclusive on the Community Sports Show.
Well, actually, talking about cheer squad, what's some of the changes over the years, and I was actually in the Bulldogs cheer squad when I was a kid. You know, and I'd go, not every week, but some weeks I'd go, and there was always a bus from the Western Oval to the away game, so that was a good way of getting in for free and going over and holding up the banner. So that was always great. I think in my days when I was a young kid, you know, it was a lot more fun at the footy. You could yell out things that you probably can't do today, and people took it as in good fun. But now I think the cheer squads, like everything else, have become very much a well-polished machine. And the banners, you know, I always feel sorry for the poor cheer squads because it takes them hours to make those banners. And sometimes after the clubs don't even run through them anymore. So I think about the poor buggers that have spent hours, you know, working on these banners, and the players don't even have the decency to smash through them. So I'd like to see the players do that more. But, you know, the AFL cheer squads really had that colourful element to the game, and I hope to not see them in the game any longer. And I used to love watching the players burst through that through the paper there, through the banner, and you know it was absolutely great stuff. And holding the banner, watching the players run onto the field, and you know the heat coming out of their nostrils, and you know like the smell of Denko rub, and you know they were exciting days at the footy, and the grounds weren't as good as what they are now, so players are pretty much well spoilt. But they were the good old days, the 70s, going to the footy at the Western Oval.
It's definitely been overridden by sponsorship now. So there's a question coming through about, feel free to talk, Dan.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just typing at the moment. I'm typical Mark, can't do two things at once.
Stay with us, Grant. Question coming. Very good question indeed.
Am I a role model? I think most of the time when it comes to being a role model, it's other people that put you up on that pedestal to see you as a role model because they want to be like you or have opportunities like you. And if some people see me as a role model, that's a good thing, I think, because what I've managed to achieve is something left field because I started up my own AFL footy show. I wasn't a part of a network, and it just started from a wild idea that I had in my head. So, you know, I think I'm an example of that. You know, you can create your own luck and do things in life that you want to do. So from that perspective, I think it motivates a lot of people to think if Grant Hansen can do that, I can do it. And until I came along, there was hardly a black person in AFL media. There's a few different AFL commentators now, different AFL football shows, and so I've been, pretty pleased that I've been able to make a significant contribution to Indigenous people in the AFL media, and hopefully young kids will take my lead and continue to assert themselves into the AFL landscape. I can see half of that question.
I've got
What's
a small.
my future tips for kids that I couldn't see the last part of that question. But look, as I said, I think the main motto that I have is that you make your own luck. So regardless of what you want to do in life, whether you want to be a racing car driver, an AFL footballer, a test cricketer, work at the local Aboriginal co-op, work at the local radio station, it's just to have a go. if you have a go, anything can happen. It's when you don't have a go that you won't get anywhere. So you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose, I think. So I've always sort of followed that. You know, the glass is not half empty; it's still half full. So just go out there and have a crack, because if you reach for the stars, you never know what you're going to come down with.
Yeah, as the next question comes through, Xavier Ellis always said, just say yes at least once.
Well, actually, I'm still lucky to be playing. I still write songs. I was in a legendary band from southeast Australia over here called Blackfire, which played for 12 years and toured nationally, internationally, and done some big shows and brought out a couple of great CDs. But these days, I play with my own band. It's called the Big City Combo, and it features some musicians that have played with the likes of the Swanee, the Deltones, Old 55, the Mental as Anything. So it's a really good band. We're playing a lot of 70s tunes, and we've done quite a few gigs the last couple of years, and the fans seem to of Marngrook come along to the show as well, and the fans seem to love those 70s songs that we play, because a lot of those songs are the songs that I grew up as a young kid going to primary school that I remember and play, and people love hearing those songs, because you don't often hear those songs even on the radio station. So it brings back a lot of nostalgia for people and great memories. So that's my band at the moment. Hopefully I can get across to WA and play over there. But it's called the Big City Combo, Grant Hansen's Big City Combo, and there's a Facebook page if you want to check us out. So go to our Facebook and join our group and follow us. That'd be great.
Some legends, if you haven't already, viewers. Big City Combo, some absolute legendary names in there. Ross Wilson, Brad Atwood coming up with a question which we'll get typed up in a moment.
So typing out.
Got a smile. You need a teleprompter across the bottom.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
You can't see us.
Can't see us either. No. Oh, that's a blessing.
Well, second tier footy, I think, in all the states and territories has lost its way somewhat because of the evolution of the AFL competition. So we all had to sacrifice all our major leagues, you know, the SANFL and the Waffle and the VFL, as it was known, when this new competition came together. So, you know, they've been under-resourced, underfunded, and it was only into the last few years where players started to get recruited from those leagues back into the big time. But, I really feel sorry for the state of the local competitions, particularly now with this COVID Wuhan virus that's happening at the moment. And there's not a lot of money floating around, and some clubs might go to the wall. But I'm a traditionalist. I like to see all those traditional clubs in the Waffle and the Sandful and VFL survive. And look, you know, you need those breeding grounds, because not everyone can play AFL footy. So, you know, playing at a second tier competition, playing on some great grounds. I know in the Waffle over there, you've got some fantastic grounds. Subiaco comes to mind, and you know, you've got some really good grounds to play on. And I still think you can still, you know, get a lot of satisfaction playing on a second tier competition, or even your local footy, or even out in the bush, out back WA there. You know, it's just a great game to play. And as we mentioned before, women are now playing, so that's even better that they can get to experience the best game, I believe, in the world. And you can be any shape and any size. Women are playing it now. There's structured competitions, and I think it's a great thing for football. But we're talking about the hub. Do I like the hub? Well, the hub is, well, I wouldn't like to be in a hub if I was a married man and had a couple of children. I think the strain on the wife and the family would be difficult. Yes, you can take the family with you, but it's not the same as being at home. So the kids are schooling. There's a whole lot of, you know, obstacles. But, you know, in saying this, the AFL worked so hard to get this competition back, and have come from a long way back to do it. And, you know, Gillon McLaughlin and his team have done an extraordinary job thus far to get a starting date. So many hoops to jump through. So I think if the hub's the only way they can get the competition started, they owe it to the AFL, the players, to follow through, do the right thing, and get the competition started again. The only downfall for me, in all seriousness, is not having crowds at the AFL footy. So what I think, I've got an actual solution for it. I think the AFL should turn off the lights, not on the field, keep the lights on the playing field, but make it all dark in the background like you do when you go to a rock concert, and just have some can clapping and yelling and screaming in the background. They can control the noise. from the media box area and have some clapping and cheering when they kick a goal. But the rest of the ground should be in darkness where the fans usually sit, and just the playing fields lit up. Then it won't be such a bad eyesore to actually watch it. So very difficult watching that first round, wasn't it? So hopefully when they come back, it'll be a little bit better.
Comment, mate. My spinners are coming on quite nicely, actually. I've taken a few wickets, not as many last year as the year before, but I'll take 35 in my first season at Bassendean Cricket Club.
Got to get that one in. All right, viewers, there are some questions coming through, so if you want to ask on
we're
your
talking about women's football, and there is a lot of knockers that I've heard out there about the women's footy, and I think it's gone back for the women is like when I was a young kid playing footy under 13s, under 15s, where it's just a pure game of football. And they've got to start from somewhere. So they're coming from a long way back to be a really good spectacle and have all the things in their games like the men do at the moment. Bearing in mind the men have had 150 years of playing the competition and building it up and becoming elite players. So the women are coming back from a long way back in order to catch up to men. But I think there's a spot for the women, and I think that the main thing is, as I said before, that women get to experience playing the best game in the world. And I think it's great that women can participate in playing the game. And some of those ladies that are playing at the moment are quite good. And I get a lot of enjoyment watching. I was a big supporter of the game when it first started. And we had women that was coming from the VFL before they actually had the AFLW on our show. So once again, we were ahead of our time. But I quite enjoy the women's football. I think there's a place for it, and it's never going to be as good as the men's game. But that doesn't mean in itself that it's not a good game. And I think it's a lot family orientated. The audience that they get and the crowd that they get is probably a bit different than the norm that they do in the AFL men's competition. But look, I think we need to be respectful and get behind them and let them enjoy our great game.
So the next question is going to come from you, Dan.
What is my favourite football moment? Well, definitely my most memorable football moment was sitting at the MCG and hearing that final siren ring, and the Bulldogs had won the grand final. As I said, one of my biggest concerns in life was that I was going to pass away, I was going to die without watching my beloved Bulldogs win a flag. The last time they'd won one was 1954, and my father was just a little boy himself. So to see the Bulldogs win that one a couple of years back there is really, really special to me, and something that I really treasure. And it doesn't matter to me whether we don't win another one. If we do, great. But to actually see that in my lifetime, it's something that I really enjoyed, because as a young kid, I went every week to watch the Bulldogs, and we were down the bottom for most of those years as a young kid, and I'd go in the rain, hail, sunshine, storms, catch buses and trains to go and watch the Dogs play. And as I said, I never thought we'd win a flag. So to actually see that come to fruition was just unbelievable. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. And now and again, I run the tape over just to have another look, just to remember how good we were on that day. But yeah, that was probably one of my most memorable moments. But some of those Marngrook grand final shows have been huge, and we were in New Zealand at one stage, going over there, Marngrook, and just the way that Marngrook's captured the football public, and how people have gotten into the show, Black, White, Brindle, and it's for old people, young people. It's just a good family footy show. I think, you can't understate, the effect that the Marngrook footy show has had with Indigenous people right across the country.
All right, Dan, next question.
Okay, type in, so where to next for Grant and to the Marngrook footy show?
Good question.
Well, we look like coming back on June the 10th, I think on the Wednesday night, because it's the first game will be a Thursday night. So we'll come back on, when there's a Thursday night game, we're on Wednesday night. When that's Fridays, obviously back to our to our normal time slot. But yeah, we're on Channel 31 here in Melbourne at the time being. The next day there's a replay on Aurora on Foxtel. It does go live streaming, and it's on their website on Channel 31 here in Melbourne. Also going into Adelaide on equivalent to 31 over there. We're also going on ICTV in the central part of Australia, and also into Darwin and Aboriginal Broadcasting Australia in Darwin as well. So we've got quite a few states tied up at this stage. So hopefully we'll get onto a major network very short. We're in discussions with a few different mobs. So people just have to be patient in Perth. if they can't get it, but you can go on the internet and watch the show. But so just remember that every time there's a Thursday night game, we're on Wednesday nights, and then every other time on Thursday night. So it's not going into Perth. Community TV in Perth is closed, I understand. So you can check us out on the Channel 31 website, and we're on at 7:30. Or otherwise, wait till Friday if you've got Foxtel, if you can afford it. We're on Aurora on the replay the next day. So just check your local program and guides.
So as you hit send, Dan, let them know.
I brought out a solo CD a few years ago, and it was original music, and had people like Paul Hester, the great Paul Hester from Crowded House, who was a very close friend of mine. On now had Wilbur Wild from Old 55 and JoJo Zepp. Paul Kelly sang a song, and had some great musicians backing me as well. So it was a bunch of songs that I'd written over the last few years that I decided I'd do a solo album. It was brought out on the same label as Guruma in Darwin there. So I was quite pleased to see it in a few record shops and I was out and about. So yeah, the CD was good, and I enjoyed doing it, and I'm still writing songs, so you never know, I might pop up with a new album soon.
Well, we definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next question coming through.
I play rhythm guitar, electric guitar. And also I play a little bit of bass, do percussion, and do vocals and backing vocals. So that's basically me. Play clapsticks, bit of percussion, as I said. So that's basically what I do.
Now, Grant, we know it's late over there in Melbourne, and we definitely appreciate your time. It is almost 9:30 there, and you've had a big day and a big weekend. Before we let you go, though, you reckon that you can play a guitar. Is there a particular song that you can play us out with, perhaps? And before you do that, is there anyone you want to say hello to or thanks to?
Yeah, look, I'd love to play a song for you guys. And I was thinking about what song it is that I'll do for you. And I think, appropriately, the only song that I really should do for you, saying it's a sports show and a footy show, is the song that I wrote for the Marngrook football show. And it's called It's Marngrook, and it was sung by the legendary Ross Wilson, who's one of my all-time favourites. I loved Daddy Cool as a young kid, and of course I love Mondo Rock. So being able to become friends with Paul through my involvement in the Songlines Music Aboriginal Corporation, and that's how I met Ross through our mentorship program. I was a CEO. So to be able to record and play with Ross, and he was on my solo album as well, doing a tune. So to be able to write a song and then have someone the calibre of Ross Wilson doing the lead vocals on it, it's quite amazing. And he tells me that people request it at his gigs when he's playing with the Peaceniks band, that they want to hear the Marngrook song. So here it is, folks. I've actually got the original document here, the piece of paper that wrote the Marngrook footy song on. So there it is. That's the original lyrics of the song. So here we go, guys. Thanks for having me, and I'll take you out with a Marngrook song. People, they're all playing Marngrook every single day. It's Marngrook. Boys and girls, they're all playing Marngrook. Monday, Tuesday, it's okay. Wednesday, Thursday, we play too late. Friday, Saturday, Sunday too. It's the game we love to see. It's Marngrook. 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 It's Marngrook. In the country and the little towns, you know they love their Marngrook. On the islands, in the ocean, yeah, they're all playing Marngrook. Monday, Tuesday, it's okay. Wednesday, Thursday, we play too late. Friday, Saturday, Sunday too. It's the game for me and you. It's Marngrook. 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 to cheer our teams when they're playing Marngrook. There's no better feeling when you win a game. When you're playing Marngrook, it's Marngrook. Marngrook, it's Marngrook. It's Marngrook.
It is
Oh,
indeed.
there you go, folks. Live, the Marngrook Footy Song. Just a shout out to all the mob that's been tuning in tonight, and thanks for your time, and thanks for having me on, guys. And I really appreciate the work that you do, and everyone does their bit to promote AFL footy and sports in general. And like you guys, I've come from the same background, so keep up all the great work. And thanks to all the listeners that are tuned in tonight. And I hope you've enjoyed the yarn, and hopefully I've inspired a few people out there, and also give people a lot of insight into behind the scenes and a little bit about myself as well. But thanks for having me on. Stay safe, stay cool, obey all the restrictions still because they're not out of the woodworks yet. But just stay happy and stay safe, and peace to the world.
Peace to you too, Grant Hansen. Thanks very much for your time. As we say goodbye to Grant over there in Melbourne, this time officially he is getting the Zoom face on, the Skype where is the button face. Dan, I have to give you credit. Your fingers were working overtime there.
Yeah, it was pretty complicated trying to do two things at once. Yeah, typical male thing there.
But, hey, don't typical West Coast supporter thing there. Oh, had to get that in.
Yeah, but seriously, guys, with the whole Fight MMD, guys, if you go out to Coles or Bunnings and buy a beanie, or if not, make a donation on the website. It's a massive cause, and let's help out as many people as we can.
Yeah, look, it is important that as a community we stick together, not just through COVID, but through all the stuff that is taking place out there, whether it's cancer, MND, for me it's multiple sclerosis. Support your mates, support your family, support the community, and when the time comes, give to a charity that is actually working directly in the field. There's lots of stuff out there about some charities putting their hands out and not spending it all. If you give direct to an organisation like Fight MND, those people are at the front line and your contributions will make a difference. Now, Dan, before we go, we had plenty of comments there. Thanks to everyone who joined in. Talisha had a bit of a smile there. We got asked to dance at the end. I'm really good at chair dancing. Really good at chair dancing. This week, before we wrap it up, because I'm not sure if we'll have a panel Wednesday, but I think we will. But before we do, your thoughts on West Coast living in Gold Coast to play their season?
Obviously, it's not ideal. You don't want, the teams away from their families and stuff like that as well. So it's not ideal, but as Grant said, it's for the good of the game and it's for football. As much as people don't say it, we are a community and a country of sport. People, obviously there's people who don't like sport, but it's always been in our blood. So the faster we can get some form of sport back is good for our mental health.
Yeah.
And it's also good for our society as well, that, communications and, the old coffee machine talks at work and all that kind of stuff. It's a good form that if we can get it back, then great. So let's just do it. And I think the players ultimately in the end are happy just to get football back.
Now, are there any questions on your list you didn't get to ask Grant? Because I'll answer him on his behalf.
No, not really, actually. I feel we got through quite a lot. So, it's amazing. He's actually quite a good talker and, it's good to listen to. So, definitely good.
He's very insightful. And as he said, not just football, Marngrook back on the Wednesday before round one of the AFL. We'll find a link and we'll share it for all the Marngrook supporters out there. It is going to be on Aurora, so that is a free-to-air community television.
No, it was on Fox. But it's going to be on, I think the way he said it was NITV and Channel 31. Yeah. So, guys, I have actually been there live at the grand final show. Obviously, watch it pretty much religiously every week. So it is a show worth watching. I said it's not like the other, mainstream TV shows where they just talk about, silly stuff. They talk about footy, and it's basically what you and I want to know about.
And they've got plenty of young talent coming through. They don't just focus on one or two names, regular guests. I like his show because they actually talk football. Thank you, Talisha. You're not alone in that thought. There's lots of love out there for Marngrook. And tonight my love has grown for Grant Hansen, a great bloke. Music, big city combo. I'm going to find a tune because all the bands he mentioned there, Mondo Rock, Old 55, Wilbur Wild,
Paul Kelly.
You're talking my era there.
It's my era too, mate. It's an Aussie classic.
They are Aussie classics. And just like us, Grant's gone. We're going to head off this Wednesday night. Make sure you tune in 6:30 with a smile on my face as we adjust to technical issues. Yeah. I'm still blaming Daniel Andrews, Premier of Victoria, for that.
Yeah, I'll blame that one too. Also, two guys, just for this time next week, we're going to have Damon Hayter, who's the PDC, so Professional Darts Corporation player who won the Queensland Darts Open. So I think another big show coming up next Monday.
I think he's also the current Australian Masters champion.
Yeah, I believe so too, yes. As
a darts man, I love my work. Maybe he can give me some tips.
Yeah, throw on the ball. Yeah,
well, we had a darts question in the quiz this week. It was about a big fish, and Damon Hatter is definitely a big fish. So,
absolutely.
Look, join us Wednesday night for a panel show. We won't be talking exclusively AFL. It might be a reduced one, but we want to get a bit of insight into what's happening out there in your community about your returns across different sports, because a lot of them now starting to come back.
Yep.
And Saturday quiz, week 3.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some changes at the top. We've got to get Subiaco past players some competition because they're sitting on top. And unfortunately, it's not just waffle premierships they want our quiz championship. So tune in Wednesday night 6:30, Saturday afternoon at 2:30, and then next Monday, with a smile on my face, despite our best efforts, we will have Damon, or not despite our best efforts, we'll get our tech guys onto that next Monday. Damon Hatter, Daniel Williams, thank you for your time tonight, brother.
Not a problem, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Now, if you'd like to be a part of our show in any capacity, we're looking for cameramen because we're going to have more sports coming to us for broadcasts, and we've got people ready to commentate. So, Dan, get your ice hockey commentary ready.
Oh, geez. Hello. That's a new one for me. I'll say that.
Ice hockey.
You have to organise me a Guernsey first.
I've got one there. PL Football, Netball League, Perth Football League. Netball's back on. Softball's looking at a return. Field hockey as well. So wherever you are across this great land of ours and the globe, we say thank you. This is Nolsey. And
this is Daniel. Have a good night, guys.